Hi everyone and welcome to the Azerbaijani Sprint, which sees Verstappen on pole ahead of Sainz and Leclerc in the Ferraris, who are looking quite good this weekend, with Russell ahead of Norris, Hamilton and Piastri, so the Mercedes and the McLarens right behind. Alonso ahead of Gasly with Albon in the top 10. The final Q3 was wet according to the times, but it was dry in Q2, which was where Bottas, Ocon, Stroll, Hulkenberg and Zhou all took part. But Perez crashed out in Q1 in my thing. He'd got through to Q2 but wasn't able to take part and had crashed out and was conveniently popped to the back of the field. Then Tsunoda, Magnussen, De Vries, Sargent, Hauger and myself were all knocked out in Q1. I am not quick round this circuit at all. I seem to have a real knife edge setup here, which makes me lose a lot of confidence. So don't expect anything from me round this one. I was barely within a second of Hauger in quali. So it's the sprint. Be prepared for some carnage. Here we go. Azerbaijan 3, 2, 1. And it looks as though we're going to be getting lights out and away we go. It is Verstappen getting the lead just about, but that looks good from Sainz to take the lead into turn one. Indeed he does. Russell challenging Leclerc but not quite getting it as we go down into turn two. Is everyone safely through? It looks like they are just about. A nice 2x2 formation towards the back, but yep, everyone's nice and clean. But it is Carlos Sainz leading the way from Verstappen and Leclerc. Leclerc fancying a look at Max Verstappen down into turn 3. Does he get it? Not quite. Verstappen holds on. Leclerc trying to go around the outside. He's not being shown the door, and side by side they go, and it's a Ferrari 1-2. By the end of Sector 1, Sainz leading from Leclerc, Verstappen, Russell, Norris, Hamilton, Alonso's ahead of Piastri, Gasly and Albon round out the top 10. Remember, it's a sprint format race, so only the top 8 will be scoring here. But bizarrely, I think this sets the grid for the Sunday race because of the weird way how F1 23 hasn't actually taken on the 2023 rules of a sprint. So there we go. Expect all of the carnage. But up front, it is definitely Carlos Sainz leading the way and looking majestic in that Ferrari ahead of Leclerc. And the rest of the field there just funneling through quite nicely. It looks all quite good as the field work their way through. That's Hauger into the wall. Trying to take Simon Smith. That's not worked out well at all for the Backmarker Brigade team. And I think that's a damaged wing. Indeed it is for Hauger. And I'm sure he'll be off into the pits at the end of lap 1 for a new set of tyres. Everyone started on medium tyres by the looks of it as Sainz completes the end of lap 1 and is looking great out front, as that is George Russell having a go at and getting, well no, not getting fourth from Norris, sorry, Norris getting fourth back from Hamilton. That's all worked out well for him. Further back, that is Gasly and Albon, I think, having a squabble over 9th and 10th. That didn't quite work. Stroll looking a watching brief just behind as well as they all filter their way through, looking quite juicy towards the back. And that is Perez going around the outside of Valtteri Bottas in the lead Alfa Romeo to take 12th position. So he's making his way up the field there is Perez, and he needs to, if he wants to make sure that he can sustain some kind of championship attack as the field work their way through. And that is Hauger now back out onto track with a new front wing at the back of the field. So Sainz leads the way ahead of Leclerc and Verstappen, and these three well clear now of Norris, who leads the Division 2, and then Division 3 is being led at the moment by Gasly as they work their way around and through. This will be one of those where the DRS comes into effect at the end of lap 2, and those who are within a second will be absolutely dragged along down the long winding straight sometimes in Azerbaijan. The corridors of Baku will no doubt keep things interesting. Is Sainz quite within a second, or has pulled out a second over Leclerc? I don't think he has. We'll soon find out as they cross the line to start lap 3, but a Ferrari 1-2 was not what we was expecting coming into this weekend. but they are clear of Verstappen, and then it's the McLarens and Mercedes battling away behind. If anything, to me, that looks like Leclerc is gaining on Carlos Sainz as we wander our way through. Look like a change further back. That was a lock-up by Russell, but he stays ahead of Hamilton. And here's a squabble. That is Sergio Perez taking 11th position away from Lance Stroll, and that looked like 9th going to Albon as he takes the top 8 are the ones that are scoring points. They've all kind of pulled away. Something's going on further back. That looks like a free wide incident there between Bottas, Zhou. Is that... Sorry, yeah, it's Ocon, sorry. And Magnussen and Bottas all squabbling away. Hulkenberg and Tsunoda not too far behind. De Vries has got round Sargent in the back of the field as well. But yeah, it's all kicking off in the midfield as they work their way through. Up front though, the Ferraris are line astern. Leclerc definitely closing down on Sainz, dragging Verstappen with him. Norris, Russell, Hamilton and Piastri are seemingly starting to drop a little bit for Fernando Alonso. Albon now has got Perez for company in the battle for 9 and 10. Perez making his way up the field quite nicely. Lots of DRS now in tow will maybe help that out a bit. Or maybe help, well, mind you, he's at the very front of the field, isn't he, in terms of being able to get onto the back of Albon. It will be trying to blast past the Williams down the straight line. Back straight or home straight will be where he's looking at it. But here's Charles Leclerc. And that is a DRS flap down, and he's having a look at teammate Carlos Sainz. It's a Ferrari 1-2 as they cross the line to start lap 4, but it's Charles Leclerc who's taking the lead. Sainz takes a little look out, gets his nose very thoroughly chopped off there. A very squirrely move there to try and get going by Sainz, who looks like he's slowing down. Is he conking out? It is. Carlos Sainz is conking out in the Ferrari. Look at the smoke pouring out of the back from the lead. Losing the lead down into turn 1 and now out of the Azerbaijan sprint race. That is a disaster for Carlos Sainz, who looked very strong today. Charles Leclerc then is into the lead, and he's got enough, thankfully, because of that DRS pull. That seems to have pulled him more than a second clear of everyone else. Something else is kicking off further back. That's Bottas versus Ocon going on. And it looks like Gasly is having a go at Guan Yu Zhou, or Zhou's having a go at Gasly, as Stroll has moved up into 10th position. Perez has got round Albon in all of that too, as Zhou gets past Pierre Gasly. The Alpine's not the fastest in the straight line, so they will struggle around a track like this, thanks to their slightly underpowered Renault engine. The Haas is keeping a watching brief with Tsunoda and De Vries in the 2 AlphaTauris right behind, with Sargent just at the back. Smith and Hauger have dropped out of the back of the pack, really. And isn't it lovely to see a scarlet Ferrari out front? Verstappen now keeping chase, and you have to say, actually, Norris I thought had dropped further back than that, but looks like he's somewhere along the line caught up a bit. Now, whether that was because of Carlos Sainz's retiring bringing him slightly closer, I'm not entirely sure. But who's got DRS? Russell's got DRS on Norris. Hamilton has on Russell. Alonso does not on Piastri, and Albon does not on Perez, so that's kind of sorted that out, as that is Pierre Gasly retaking Guan Yu Zhou for 11th and 12th positions, just at the top end of the second half of the field as they will make their way around past the yellow flags of Carlos Sainz, our sole retirement of this race. So Leclerc continues to lead the way. Verstappen not really got much to answer to the Ferrari at the moment. We'll see how this changes over time, but if anything, Verstappen's getting closed in, or has got more to deal with the Norris-Russell-Hamilton squabble going on behind. The Mercedes and the McLarens definitely keeping Max Verstappen honest in this sprint so far as they work their way through the castle section. Majestic sweeping round the Baku circuit. Piastri clinging on just about in 6th, Alonso 7, Perez now into 8th, and closing down Fernando Alonso, so that looks like that could be good. Albon and Stroll in the top 10 for the first time really this year, and sadly it's in a sprint race, only the top 8 score. As Gasly makes a small little mistake there. Magnussen's got De Vries and Sargent for company, as there is Smith. Now you can see exactly what I mean by how knife-edged my car is. As there we go into the DRS range. Here comes George Russell. What's he going to do? Onto the back of Lando Norris. This now for third place in the race. Not quite close enough to do anything down that front first DRS. Perez, though, I think having DRS on Alonso, that's telling. Thought that Alfa Romeo had no front wing there for a second. Just a trick of the light. So there we go, lap 6 of 17. The sun setting around the Baku circuit, and Charles Leclerc leads the way. Don't call this done yet. Verstappen keeping a watching brief in second. So we'll get their way around. So Perez definitely closing down on Alonso. Norris, Russell and Hamilton all seem to be on equal time and just following each other around at the moment. Through the incredibly fast circuit there. That looked like Russell hit the edge. I'm sure I saw tyre smoke pulling out of that. Maybe he was just going offline slightly, but here comes George Russell. Norris goes to defend. Russell goes to the outside. This is going to be side by side into turn 1. Who's the last of the late breakers? It looks like it's going to be Lando Norris. He gives Russell room, who goes round the outside into turn 2. Is he going to make the move of that? No, Norris goes and sticks his nose in side by side again. Down the back straight, and look, Lewis Hamilton saying, where can I go? And indeed, he's going to try and slipstream through past Norris as well. Will he pull out another go at Russell too? No. Superb teamwork there by the Mercedes team to both leapfrog Lando Norris, and up into third and fourth they go. Piastri's dropped Alonso, who's got Perez for company behind. There's Stroll, Gasly, Zhou, Bottas, Ocon, Hulkenberg, Tsunoda. And Logan Sargent's made up 2 positions in all of that too. He's got round both Kevin Magnussen and Nick de Vries, so that's a good move there by Sargent down the back straight, as Kevin Magnussen seems to be struggling somewhat and is dropped back from that other snake. So we'll see if Sargent, now free of de Vries and Magnussen, if he can close back up onto the back of that again. And wow, are the Mercedes now pulling away from the McLarens? And is it actually Mercedes are the third fastest team here today and McLaren are the fourth? Piastri was looking the least confident McLaren in the first 6 laps of this race, but he seems to have just clung on to the back of Norris. And I wonder now, well, Norris is going to be within a second to get DRS to maybe hold on to that position, but he's going to need to be careful with it, because Piastri is going to have a good watching brief behind. Perez is close to Alonso, slightly in the background there too. But I don't think there's any changes of position as we go down into the next turn for a wee bit. We've got some changes going on here. That's Esteban Ocon having a go and getting past Valtteri Bottas in the second of the Alfa Romeos here this afternoon. Not often we've seen Bottas behind Joe so far this year, but it's happened. And there is Sargent's definitely pulled away slightly from Magnussen. Oh, that's de Vries, I think, running out wide, but no harm done as the field sort themselves out. Let's just scroll back up to the front again. You have to say, at half distance, Charles Leclerc, I think the gap has come down ever so slightly, but it's a tiny, tiny, tiny margin between him and Verstappen. Russell has still got Hamilton in his wheel tracks. Norris and Piastri keeping a watching brief. Alonso has got Perez for company, definitely. As they make their way around, and Albon just hoping that something goes wrong for the ones up ahead, as he is the leader of the second half of the field, basically, isn't he? Okay, let's go up front, follow on the helicam as we bundle down those home straights. I don't think... Oh no, Hamilton's going to go for it. He's having a look down the outside of teammate George Russell. Well, inter-team battle be damned. Russell holds off for the time being. This is going to allow Verstappen to get away. But no, Lewis Hamilton straight through and easily takes third position. That was much cleaner there for Hamilton than it was for anything else. It looks like there's a squabble going on between Perez and Alonso further back. Looks like Alonso's got it for now. Is Norris going to try and go around the outside of Russell and retake back fourth position? Looks like he is. He's going to have the inside line for the next corner. Does that work out well for the McLaren driver? Yes, he does, but he gets pincered on the line. He doesn't want to shove Russell into the wall, and so George Russell does hold on to that position for the time being. Perez has got round Alonso down at the end of the back straight of the first DRS zone too, so that was a thing. And yeah, I think everyone else is okay, and as they were for the time being. But, well, Lewis Hamilton now free of George Russell. Is he going to tow George Russell along for the ride and try and hold him and keep him free of the pincers of the McLaren duo? I think he's pulled out more than a second. So this might not work out very well for George Russell at all at this rate, because he's less than a... Well, he's got Norris less than a second behind, but he's got Hamilton more than a second ahead. And it's a shame that we're having to talk about a pure race but as a DRS battle. But this just seems to be the way how this race has kind of unfolded. So we'll see how it goes. And there's the two back marker brigade. Smith has not been running well at all, as you can see. And well, Dennis Hauger's caught up onto the back of his teammate despite having done a pit stop. So I think that says an awful lot about Smith's pace here today. Russell does hold off though on Lando Norris for the time being down at turn 1. He looks like he's sizing up a move down into turn 3 though. For my liking anyway, on lap 10 of 17. And comes the DRS. Which way is Norris going to go? Not entirely sure. Looks like everyone else is okay for the time being. Let's have a look further back. Oh, that looks like a squabble towards the back there. It is. It's De Vries versus Magnussen, and Nick De Vries there gets ahead of the Haas driver. Magnussen looks like he's trying to go down the outside and have another go back through again. Oh! What's happened there? Yellow flags. Oh, hello. Kevin Magnussen. That is definitely one smoky Haas. And that makes our second retirement of the race, Kevin Magnussen. It looked like his car was ailing, but earlier on he dropped off the back of everyone else. That's allowed Nick De Vries up into a clear 18th then. Hauger has got round Smith as well, so they'll move up positions too. But yeah, that's a second retirement, and that's unfortunate for Kevin Magnussen, having scored some decent points earlier on this season. He won't be getting any in this sprint. Lap 10 completed then, and well, Leclerc still got Verstappen looming in his mirrors. That looks kind of the same as it did before. So maybe they are on even Stevens in terms of pace, and we'll see how this plays out. That is Norris, though, ahead of Russell. That's key move for 4th and 5th positions. I don't know why that was giving me that camera angle. That was very confusing. I was like, has Russell retired? But yeah, on we go. Piastri now up into 6th. Perez now, though, into 7th position. This has been a good, solid recovery drive up to 7th in 11 laps. That's 9 positions in 11 laps. So that says a lot as we go past the yellow flags for Kevin Magnussen. Alonso in the final points paying position in 8. Albon's not a million miles away in 9. Stroll, Gasly, Zhou, Ocon, Hulkenberg, Bottas, Tsunoda, their Sargent, not quite onto the back of everyone else yet, and De Vries is off the back too. Hauger pulling away from Smith. So it's all kicking off quite nicely as we make our way round to this next nice little bit of the final third of this sprint. Oh, was that Russell in the wall again? It looked like he was having to really correct that Mercedes. Lucky if he didn't hit the wall. That looked like a very acute angle. Piastri's got Perez though for company, so that could be an issue potentially. As here we are, end of the DRS train. Hamilton is clear of Norris. Here comes Perez on Piastri though, and it looks like he's got the move done before they even get down to turn 1. Such is the dominance of the DRS and the Red Bull. Perez now into 6th position on lap 12 of 17. This has looked beautiful. A great recovery drive really for Perez as everyone makes their way through, and that is Verstappen's lost it. Max Verstappen has lost the car. This is a huge drama, and there's something else going on further. Oh my Christ! This is what I wonder. Do you know what? I didn't see what caused the red flag, but I know about it now. What on earth happened there? So, it's Pierre Gasly, sorry. Smashes into the barriers, spreads his Alpine across the track. Guan Yu Zhou then smashes into the back of him, and then, oh dear, Bottas then goes into the back of him. Tsunoda too. Sargent doesn't really know where to go, neither does Ocon. This is an absolute disaster down the back of the field. Let's take another quick look at what happened there with poor old Gasly. Let's go on board, or on the big old helicam. Not helicam. Airbox cam. So it was just... yeah, you can see, look, he gets a little slapper on. Bonk! Oh, it's so easily done. Loses his wheel, spins around, and then is absolutely creamed by Guan Yu Zhou, who has nowhere to go. Teammate Ocon slows down. Zhou clearly does not. Through goes Hulkenberg, and then look, Bottas just smashes into the back. Tsunoda into the back of him too. That's huge. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So, out of the race there, with what it looks like a safety car and now a red flag, is all kinds of people. But the crucial one, if I go back, Max Verstappen gets disqualified for going the wrong way. He was in the middle of going the right way, but for some reason it disqualified him. So God knows what on earth happened there. We rejoin on lap 14 with 4 laps to go. What on earth could happen to finish off this sprint? Okay, so lining up for this 4-lap sprint, we've got Leclerc ahead of Hamilton, Norris, Russell, Perez now in 5th. After all that, with Piastri, then Alonso and Albon finds himself now in 8th position. Well, we said leading the Division 2 would be hoping for something to happen for someone in front. That definitely did, but he's got Stroll, Hulkenberg, Tsunoda, Ocon, Sargent, De Vries, Hauger and Smith behind, with Zhou, Bottas, Gasly, Magnussen, Sainz and Verstappen not taking the start. It's worthwhile also noting that Tsunoda has a 5-second penalty. So, now what's going to happen? 4, 5 lights... and we're off and away for the final 4 laps here of the sprint, and it looks like Leclerc's gotten away very well. Hamilton goes to defend Norris. That looks like Perez is trying to get round the outside of Russell and does so immediately and moves up into 4th position. Perez could have gone from 16th to a podium here potentially, as the rest of the field work their way round quite nicely and succinctly as Leclerc gets back on to resuming his lead and looking very dominant with it, with Norris then. Here's Perez trying to go around the outside of Lewis Hamilton for third and fourth position. Is Perez going to get up into the podium places? Looks like he wants to. Hamilton goes round the outside. This is allowing Norris and Leclerc to scamper away up front, which is exactly what they're doing. Everyone on soft tyres, obviously, with the red flag allowing everyone to change their tyres. So it's looking good for everyone to just do an absolute sprint to the end. Leclerc, Norris, Hamilton, Perez, Russell, Piastri, Stroll has got ahead of Alonso in all of that. A great start by Stroll, up 2 places. Alonso and Albon down 1. Logan Sargent finds himself in 10th place. Wow. Then it's De Vries, Hulkenberg, Tsunoda. Ocon's had a poor start and dropped down to 14th. Not sure what happened there, with Hauger and Smith rounding off the field as everyone makes their way through the sun-setting turn 14, which is the or turn 15, sorry, which is the dodgy one. Certainly the one that I normally cry at the most when I'm going towards the apex, saying please don't have a twitch. But at the end of the first lap, Leclerc has re-established his exceptional prowess of leading around this Azerbaijan Grand Prix. You have to wonder what would have happened with Verstappen being there, and also of course teammate Sainz, who was leading early on before his mechanical failure. Everyone piling through. That looks like a change of position, and that is Yuki Tsunoda getting past Nico Hulkenberg, or is he? Hulkenberg tries to defend. Side by side they go. They're holding up everyone else as Ocon and Hauger particularly taking a watching brief. Here comes Esteban Ocon having a little look. Can he get one way or another to try and recover from that bad start? I think the answer is no. And Hauger looking like he quite fancies getting some racing done today, having had to pit at the end of the first lap for a new front wing. Leclerc, though, leading the way. Needs to keep it nice and steady with 3 to go. Norris has got Hamilton for company. These two, I think, will resume themselves. Perez is kind of regrouping himself in 4th. He'd had a great start there, getting past Russell. Nearly had Hamilton too, but now is sat not exactly harrying the back of Hamilton. And there is Lance Stroll ahead of teammate Fernando Alonso. I don't think we would have said that earlier on in this race, and the Williamses will want to have a watching brief there in 9th and 10th as the field makes its way through, kicking up the dust at the end of, well, in the breaking in for that turn. You don't want to have a too wider one, because otherwise you'll end up in all kinds of strife, losing straight line speed down the straight, which is not what Leclerc is struggling with as he crosses the line with 2 to go. DRS is back on then. And, well, he doesn't have to worry from Lando Norris behind. He'll have to worry about Lewis Hamilton, though. As here we go again. This looks like Tsunoda versus Hulkenberg, but Hulk's got it for the time being. Back up front. Let's see what's going on with Hamilton versus Norris. Is he going to have a look any which way but loose? The answer is an unequivocal no. Not quite close enough. Perez having to defend there a little bit from Russell, but not much. Stroll being dragged along by Piastri keeps him ahead of Alonso. Then it's Albon and Sargent with Hulkenberg, Tsunoda, Ocon, Hauger and Smith. And indeed, both backmarker brigades, I think, starting to lose off the back again. They just don't have the pace here around this circuit. Hamilton certainly has pace, though, in that McLaren. Is it pace enough for second, though, as they weave their way through the castle walls? Such a great camera view. Kicking up the dust there was Lando Norris. And of course, Lando Norris, third in the championship coming into this race, with both Perez and Verstappen behind, and crucially Verstappen not scoring in this sprint. This plays beautifully into Lando Norris's hands. So, and with Perez actually up into 4th and Verstappen now showing as 22nd, that plays hugely into his hands too, because if this is going to be a how we set the grid, then my word, Verstappen's got a lot to do, as Lewis Hamilton has an awful lot, taking second place away from Lando Norris. Great move there. Alonso gets past teammate Stroll, and that looks like Tsunoda getting past Nico Hülkenberg after all of that too, as the field has kind of spread out into separate little battles. And we're on to the final lap then of this sprint race format around Baku, and it's Leclerc well clear, Hamilton kicking up a little bit of dust but keeping ahead of Norris. Is Norris thinking he's going to use the DRS on the final lap to try and get back past Hamilton, I wonder? Russell may be trying to think the same for Perez. Piastri has now got Alonso behind. Stroll's got Albon for company, so that's a good battle for the final point. Logan Sargent not quite running at the same pace, has dropped back to 10 and has got De Vries for company. But still, both Sargent and De Vries having their best runs so far this season. I think they'll both take good confidence and stock from this. But I think the big show here really is, where have Ferrari been hiding this pace in 2023 so far? Because Charles Leclerc, and when he was in the race, Carlos Sainz, both looked like they were capable of winning and holding a flame to Red Bull. That's not really something we've seen all year long. And for the first time this year, we've got a non-Red Bull winner. And across the line he comes. It's going to be the Monegasque Charles Leclerc winning the Azerbaijan sprint race. Beautifully done there. Second across the line will be Hamilton. Norris not able to do anything there at all. Perez in third. Then it's Russell, who's going to get sixth. I think Alonso got it just from Piastri. That was very close. Stroll gets the final point ahead of Albon, Sargent, De Vries. Tsunoda's got a grid penalty, so Ocon moves to 12, Hülkenberg to 13, Hauger gets 14, Tsunoda will be 15, as Smith crosses the line 16th and last. And here is the result then, as you can clearly see. And the big shockers there, Verstappen, Zhou, Bottas, Gasly, Magnussen and Sainz all retired from that race. Let's take a look at the race director. Everyone on a medium to soft, except for Hauger that had to pit at the end of lap 1 for a front wing. And well, Sainz and Magnussen having mechanical failures. The three crash out there, with Gasly crashing and taking the two Alfa Romeos with him. Tsunoda with a 5-second penalty for hitting into the back of Bottas but surviving. Max Verstappen getting disqualified for going the wrong way. I don't think he would have got the disqualification had we have not gone to a red flag for a crash. So really unfortunate timing there for him. Front wing changes for Hauger there. Obviously Tsunoda had a front wing change, and interestingly so did Smith. I didn't even realise I'd hit anything, but there we go. And what does that do to the standings after the sprint? Well, Max Verstappen still leads the championship, but Sergio Perez does eat in a few points. 6 is the gap between them. Norris keeps third, but Charles Leclerc leaps into 4th position from Lewis Hamilton. Sainz drops to 5th, or stays in 5th rather, ahead of Russell, who's now equal on points. Alonso and Piastri there, with Gasly rounding out the top 10 despite that enormous crash. Lance Stroll gets his first point of the season though, with that 8th place in the sprint. And if anything, actually it does a little bit of a swooshing around behind the scenes, because it puts Sargent up into 17th, I think, with his best of the rest finish. Now you can see constructors wise, Ferrari staying ahead of Mercedes for now. McLaren keeps a watching brief, Aston all on their own, Alpine, Haas and Williams the other point scorers. And wow, Alfa Romeo desperately needs some luck, don't they? Okay, well join us for the race around Azerbaijan next.